The moment Liam swung open the door to their cozy Chicago apartment, on a rainy Tuesday evening his heart stopped cold. There was Caden, his partner of 5 years, tangled in a heated embrace with Jake, the ex from college he had sworn was history months ago. "What the hell is this?" Liam's voice cracked as his keys dropped to the hardwood floor with a clatter that seemed to echo forever in the sudden silence. Caden pulled back, eyes wide with panic, while Jake simply smirked, adjusting his shirt like he had every right to be there in the space Liam and Caden had built together. The air felt thick with the scent of Caden's favorite sandalwood cologne mixed with something sharper, something that did not belong in their home. Liam's mind raced through a whirlwind of memories: the first date at that little Italian bistro in Wicker Park where Caden had nervously ordered the wrong wine, and they both laughed until tears came; the weekend trips up to the Michigan lakes where they promised each other forever under starlit skies, and the quiet nights spent planning a future that included adopting a rescue dog and maybe even buying a house in the suburbs someday. 5 years. All of it flashed before his eyes like a film reel on fast forward, now tainted by the sight in front of him. Caden stammered forward, hands raised in defense. "Liam, it's not what it looks like. Jake just stopped by and things got complicated." But the guilt etched across his face told the real story louder than any words could. Jake let out a low chuckle, buttoning the last button on his shirt. "Hey man, sorry you had to walk in on that. Old habits die hard, I guess." Liam felt the floor shift beneath his feet like the entire apartment was tilting on its axis. He had come home early from a brutal marketing strategy meeting at the downtown firm, excited to surprise Caden with tickets to the Cubs game they had been talking about for weeks. Instead, this betrayal hit him like a freight train, leaving him gasping for air in the middle of their living room. How long had this been going on? Liam demanded, his voice rising despite the knot forming in his throat. "Was the last year of I'm working late at the studio all lies, Caden. Every missed dinner, every unexplained text, every time you pulled away when I tried to hold you." The questions poured out, each one slicing deeper into his chest. Caden's eyes darted between Liam and Jake before he finally muttered, "It was only a few times. I swear it meant nothing. Jake was just there, and I was stressed with the gallery show coming up. You know how it is." But Liam knew how it was. He had been the one picking up the pieces every time Caden's art career hit a rough patch, paying the bills with his steady paycheck, while Caden chased his dreams. The anger surged hot and immediate, but underneath it, a colder emptiness settled in the place where his heart used to beat steadily for this man. Liam turned on his heel, ignoring Caden's desperate, "Please, Liam, wait, we can talk about this. Please don't go like this." He was already out the door, the Chicago wind whipping his face as he stumbled down the narrow stairs of their Lincoln Park building. His phone buzzed relentlessly in his pocket, Caden's name flashing across the screen again and again. Liam silenced it, hailing a cab to his best friend Alex's place a few blocks away in the same neighborhood. The driver kept glancing in the rearview mirror but said nothing as Liam stared out at the blurred city lights reflecting off the wet streets. At Alex's apartment, Liam collapsed onto the worn leather couch, the weight of the evening crashing down all at once. Alex, his straight ally from the marketing team, poured him a generous glass of whiskey without asking questions at first. "Dude, what happened? You look like you just got hit by a bus." The words tumbled out of Liam in a rush, the shock, the anger, the hollow feeling that made every breath hurt. Alex listened, nodding slowly before finally saying, "Man, that's rough. 5 years is a long time to invest in someone only to have it blow up like this. You staying here tonight? No arguments." Liam nodded numbly, staring into the amber liquid in his glass, wondering how everything they had shared could unravel so quickly. As the night stretched on, Liam replayed every moment in his head, the way Caden had held him through the anxiety attacks after coming out to his conservative parents back in Indiana, the fights they weathered over money when Caden's commissions dried up, and the small victories like the night their friends threw them a surprise anniversary party complete with a homemade cake that tasted terrible but meant everything. Was it all a facade? The internal voice whispered doubts about his own worth. Was he not enough? Did loving another man always come with this kind of hidden cost? Society's subtle judgments echoed louder now, the awkward silences at family gatherings when relatives asked when he was going to settle down with a nice girl, the sideways glances from coworkers who still whispered about his orientation behind closed doors. By the time dawn crept through the blinds, Liam knew he could not go back to that apartment, not yet. He waited until Caden left for his studio, then slipped in alone, packing a duffel bag with only the essentials: clothes, toiletries, and the old leather journal Caden had given him on their second anniversary. The place, once filled with laughter and shared routines, now felt like a museum of lies. Photos on the wall mocked him, smiling faces at the Pride Parade last summer, vacations in California, where they had rented a convertible and driven up the coast. Liam left a simple note on the kitchen counter: "I need space, do not call." But as he closed the door behind him, a single tear escaped, tracing a hot path down his cheek. 5 years gone in one rainy afternoon, and the worst part was he still did not know if he could ever trust his own heart again. The days that followed blurred into a fog of numbness and restless nights on Alex's couch. Liam called in sick to work the next morning, citing a family emergency, which was not entirely a lie since his own sense of family had just been blown apart. His boss at the marketing firm was understanding enough, sending a quick text: "Take all the time you need, we got you covered," but Liam knew the team would be scrambling without him on the big campaign deadline. He did not care. All he could think about was the image of Caden and Jake burned into his mind like a scar that refused to fade. Every time he closed his eyes, the scene replayed, forcing him to relive the betrayal over and over until his stomach churned. Alex tried to keep things light, making bad jokes about how at least now Liam had an excuse to eat all the takeout he wanted, but the concern in his friend's eyes was unmistakable. "You gotta talk to someone professional, maybe not just me," Alex suggested one evening while they shared pizza on the living room floor. Liam shrugged, picking at a slice. "I do not know if I am ready for that yet." The truth was, he was terrified of what a therapist might uncover, the parts of himself he had buried deep, the fear that maybe he had ignored the red flags all along because he wanted the fairy tale so badly. Growing up in a small Indiana town with parents who still sent him articles about traditional family values had taught him early that being gay meant fighting for every scrap of happiness, and now even that fight felt pointless. On the third day, Liam finally checked his phone, ignoring the dozens of missed calls from Caden and scrolling instead through old photos. There they were at the Art Institute on their first real date, Caden's hand in his as they stood before a Monet painting, whispering about how the colors reminded them of each other. There was the Christmas they spent in New York City, braving the crowds at Rockefeller Center to see the tree. Caden surprising him with tickets to a Broadway show even though money was tight. Each picture twisted the knife deeper. How could the man who had been his rock through coming out to his family, the man who held him when his father said, "I do not understand, but I love you anyway," turn around and throw it all away for a fling with an ex? A text from his sister Emily popped up out of nowhere: "Hey little bro, mom and dad keep asking why you have not called in weeks. Everything okay back home?" Liam stared at the screen, his thumb hovering. His family knew he was gay, but they preferred the polite version where he never brought it up at holidays and Caden was referred to as his roommate. The idea of telling them the truth now that the relationship had imploded filled him with dread. What would they say? Would his father shake his head and mutter, "I told you this lifestyle was unstable"? Would his mother cry and ask what she did wrong in raising him? The pressure of their expectations mixed with his own shame created a storm inside his chest that made it hard to breathe. That afternoon, Liam forced himself out for a walk along the lakefront, the crisp autumn air biting at his face as joggers and dog walkers passed by in a blur. Chicago's skyline rose behind him, a reminder of the life he had built here far from the cornfields of Indiana. He had moved to the city right after college, chasing dreams of a career and a love that felt real. Meeting Caden at a mutual friend's gallery opening had seemed like fate, the artist with the messy hair and infectious laugh pulling Liam out of his shell. They had fallen hard and fast, building something Liam thought was unbreakable. Now, walking alone with the wind off Lake Michigan whipping his jacket, he wondered if any of it had been real, or if he had simply projected his need for acceptance onto the first man who showed him kindness. Back at Alex's place, a new wave of messages waited from Caden. "Please Liam, just let me explain. I messed up, but I still love you. We can fix this." Liam deleted them all without reading further. Fixing it felt impossible when every memory now carried the stain of doubt. Later that night, as he lay awake staring at the ceiling, Alex's soft snores coming from the bedroom, Liam made a quiet decision. He would not run back. He would face this head on, even if it meant tearing apart the identity he had wrapped so tightly around being Caden's partner. The internal crisis deepened with every passing hour, questions about his own worth swirling alongside the anger. Was loving men always destined to end in heartbreak? Was there something about him that invited betrayal? The societal whispers he had tried to ignore for years grew louder in the quiet apartment, reinforcing the isolation he felt. By the end of the week, Liam had started packing up more of his things from the old apartment during Caden's studio hours, moving them into a storage unit downtown. Each box felt heavier than the last, filled with shared blankets, kitchen gadgets, and the coffee maker they had bought together on a whim. The process was exhausting but necessary, a small step toward reclaiming space in his own life. Alex noticed the change, offering to help with the heavy lifting, no questions asked. "You are stronger than you think, man," he said, clapping Liam on the shoulder one afternoon. "This is not the end of your story, just a plot twist." Liam wanted to believe him, but the road ahead looked long and uncertain, the weight of 5 years pressing down like an anchor he was not sure he could lift. Yet somewhere beneath the pain, a tiny spark of determination flickered, refusing to be extinguished. He would figure this out, even if it meant walking through the fire alone. Weeks turned into a month, and the initial shock began to settle into a dull ache that Liam carried with him everywhere. He returned to work on a part-time basis, throwing himself into client pitches and campaign strategies as if the distraction could erase the emptiness inside. The team welcomed him back with cautious smiles and extra coffee runs, but no one asked the hard questions, which suited him just fine. During lunch breaks, he would sit in the conference room scrolling through job listings in other cities, wondering if a fresh start somewhere like Seattle or Boston could reset everything. The thought of leaving Chicago, the city where he and Caden had planted roots, terrified him as much as it excited him. One Friday evening, Alex dragged him to a small gathering at a friend's loft in Logan Square, a casual mix of artists and professionals that reminded Liam too much of the circles Caden moved in. He almost backed out, but Alex insisted, "You need to be around people who are not me or your ex." The loft was warm with string lights and laughter, but Liam felt like an outsider nursing a beer in the corner until a guy named Marcus approached him with an easy smile. Marcus worked in graphic design at a nonprofit downtown and had a quiet confidence that put Liam at ease. They talked about everything from favorite hiking trails in the nearby forest preserves to the frustrations of navigating family expectations when your life did not fit the traditional mold. For the first time in weeks, Liam laughed, genuinely, the sound surprising even him. Yet the conversation stirred something deeper. Marcus shared his own story of coming out in a conservative Texas family and the years it took to rebuild trust with his parents. Liam listened mesmerized, realizing how much he had suppressed his own struggles to keep Caden happy. The exchange planted a seed of doubt, not about his identity but about how he had let it be defined by someone else. Back at Alex's that night, the internal questions intensified. Had he sacrificed pieces of himself to fit into Caden's world? The late nights at gallery openings, the endless support for dreams that never quite materialized. Was his love for Caden genuine, or just a way to prove to himself and the world that he could have the normal life everyone else seemed to chase? The following weekend, Liam finally answered a call from his sister Emily. She sounded worried. "Liam, Mom says you sound off in your texts. What is going on?" He hesitated, then poured out the basics without naming names. Emily listened quietly before saying, "You deserve better than someone who cannot be honest. Dad might not get it right away, but we love you no matter what." The words brought unexpected tears, but also a wave of relief. For the first time, Liam considered telling his parents the full truth, not just that he was gay, but that the relationship they had never fully acknowledged had ended in betrayal. The idea both terrified and liberated him, forcing him to confront the identity crisis he had been avoiding. Misunderstandings with old friends added another layer of tension. A mutual acquaintance texted asking if he and Caden were still together for a group dinner invitation, and Liam's curt reply sparked rumors that spread through their shared circle. Some sided with him, offering support, while others distanced themselves as if his pain was contagious. The isolation amplified his doubts about belonging in a world that still viewed gay relationships as fragile or temporary. Nights grew longer, filled with restless thoughts about what it meant to be a man who loved men in modern America, the pressure to be perfect, the fear of being seen as weak for feeling this deeply. Marcus texted a few days later suggesting a casual hike at Starved Rock State Park just outside the city. Liam agreed, surprising himself. The drive out was quiet, but once on the trails, surrounded by autumn foliage and the sound of the river below, something shifted. They talked about everything and nothing, the conversation flowing naturally without the weight of expectations. Marcus did not push for details about the breakup, instead sharing stories of his own growth after heartbreak. By the time they reached the overlook, Liam felt a small crack in the armor he had built around his heart. Maybe there was life beyond the pain, maybe friendships could turn into something more without repeating the same mistakes. Yet the progress was fragile. One evening, Caden showed up unannounced at Alex's building, waiting on the stoop with flowers and apologies. Liam spotted him from the window, his stomach twisting. The confrontation was brief and raw, Caden pleading for another chance, while Liam stood firm. "I need to figure out who I am without you." The words surprised even him, but they rang true. Watching Caden walk away, Liam felt the first real stirrings of empowerment mixed with the lingering grief. The internal conflict raged on, but for the first time he could see a path forward, one that did not depend on anyone else to validate his worth. The societal prejudices that once felt like chains now seemed like challenges he was ready to face head-on, even if the road was uncertain and filled with more misunderstandings along the way. The holidays approached faster than Liam expected, and with them came a flood of invitations he was not sure he could face. His parents called, insisting he come home to Indiana for Thanksgiving, the first time in years without Caden by his side. The pressure mounted as his mother hinted at setting up a blind date with the daughter of a family friend, completely ignoring the reality of his life. Liam dodged the conversation as best he could, but the call left him drained, questioning whether his family would ever fully accept the man he was becoming. In the midst of it all, Marcus became a steady presence, their hikes turning into weekly rituals that grounded him in ways he had not expected. One crisp Saturday they drove out to the Indiana dunes for a change of scenery, the vast expanse of sand and water mirroring the turmoil still churning inside Liam. As they walked along the beach, Marcus finally asked the question Liam had been avoiding: "How are you really doing with everything?" The words spilled out in a rush, the betrayal, the self-doubt, the fear that he might never trust again. Marcus listened without judgment, then shared his own turning point after a similar breakup, the moment he chose therapy and community over isolation. The conversation planted an idea in Liam's mind, one he acted on the very next week, scheduling his first session with a counselor recommended by a colleague at work. The therapy sessions were harder than he anticipated, peeling back layers of internalized shame from years of hiding his truth to protect his family's feelings. His counselor, a kind woman named Dr. Patel, helped him see how the relationship with Caden had become a crutch rather than a partnership. "You sacrificed your voice to keep the peace," she noted gently, "and now you get to reclaim it." The insight hit hard, forcing Liam to examine the sacrifices he had made, the dreams he had sidelined, the friends he had drifted from, all in the name of love. Meanwhile, Caden continued reaching out with longer messages detailing his regret and the steps he was taking to change, attending support groups and focusing on his art with new purpose. A surprise visit from Caden at Liam's temporary sublet apartment one evening escalated the tension. He stood on the doorstep looking thinner and more vulnerable than Liam remembered. "I know I do not deserve another chance, but I am fighting for us." The words stirred old feelings, but Liam held his ground, the growth from therapy giving him clarity. "We both need to grow separately first." The exchange ended in tears on both sides, but Liam walked away feeling stronger, the decision a pivotal step toward independence. Misunderstandings with mutual friends continued, some accusing him of being too harsh, others praising his strength, yet each conversation chipped away at the isolation, reinforcing that his journey was his own. Family dynamics reached a boiling point during a video call with his parents. His father finally asked the question hanging in the air, "Son, is this about that friend of yours?" Liam took a deep breath and laid it all out: the 5 years, the betrayal, the pain, and the healing he was pursuing. The silence that followed was heavy, but his mother's soft "I am sorry you went through that alone" broke through the barrier. It was not perfect acceptance, but it was a start, a small sacrifice on their part that mirrored his own willingness to be vulnerable. The conversation left him exhausted yet hopeful, the first crack in the wall he had built around his identity. Through it all, Marcus remained a constant, no pressure, no expectations, just steady support that slowly blossomed into something deeper. They shared quiet dinners and late-night talks about everything from politics to personal fears, the connection building on mutual respect, rather than the whirlwind passion Liam once knew with Caden. One evening, as they watched the city lights from Marcus's balcony, Liam realized the romantic spark was there, but he was not ready to rush. The growth he was experiencing felt too precious to risk repeating past patterns. Caden's attempts at reconciliation continued, but each one reinforced Liam's resolve, the consequences of his choices, now clear in the distance he maintained. The internal awakening gained momentum with every small victory: a promotion at work, a renewed bond with his sister, a deeper understanding of his own needs. Yet the high tension lingered, knowing that true resolution would require one final confrontation with the past. Liam scheduled a meeting with Caden at a neutral coffee shop downtown, the neutral ground feeling like a battlefield. As he walked there, the Chicago wind at his back, he felt the weight of every decision, every sacrifice, and every moment of doubt leading to this point. The path to self-worth was paved with difficult choices, but for the first time Liam trusted himself to walk it. The coffee shop meeting with Caden stretched for over an hour, filled with raw honesty that left both men drained. Caden admitted the affair had started during a low point in his career, the validation from Jake filling a void Liam could not reach. "I was scared to lose you, so I pushed you away instead," he confessed, eyes downcast. Liam listened, absorbing the words without the old urge to fix everything. For the first time he voiced his own hurts, the nights he felt invisible, the pressure to be the stable one while Caden chased artistic highs. The conversation ended not with reconciliation but with mutual understanding and a quiet agreement to let go with respect. Walking away, Liam felt lighter, the psychological weight of carrying the relationship alone finally lifted. With the closure came a surge of energy. Liam threw himself into new routines, joining a local LGBTQ support group, where stories from other men mirrored his own struggles and triumphs. The meetings became a lifeline, highlighting how identity crises were universal yet deeply personal, each man navigating family rejection, workplace bias, and the search for authentic love. Liam shared his journey for the first time in a group setting, the words cathartic and empowering. Marcus attended one session as moral support, their bond deepening into something Liam no longer feared but embraced at his own pace. Family ties strengthened over the holidays. Liam flew home to Indiana for Christmas, the first time facing his parents without the buffer of a partner. The conversations were awkward at first but honest, his father admitting, "I never knew how hard it was for you, son, but I am proud of the man you have become." The acceptance, though imperfect, marked a turning point. The societal pressures that once defined his choices now felt like background noise he could tune out. His sister Emily became his biggest cheerleader, texting daily check-ins and even visiting Chicago for a weekend to meet Marcus. The support network Liam built reminded him that relationships extended far beyond romance, encompassing friendship and family in ways he had overlooked. Work flourished too, the promotion he earned coming with new responsibilities that channeled his creative energy into campaigns supporting mental health awareness, a cause close to his heart after the past months. Colleagues noticed the change, commenting on his renewed focus, Liam smiling inwardly, knowing the growth stemmed from the hardest decision of his life. Evenings with Marcus brought quiet joy, hikes, picnics, and conversations that revealed layers of compatibility without the drama of his previous relationship. Liam guarded his heart carefully, but the happiness felt genuine, built on equality rather than sacrifice. The internal transformation continued during solo reflection sessions, Liam journaling about the lessons learned, the importance of boundaries, the power of self-advocacy, and the realization that loving another man did not require losing himself. The once overwhelming crisis of identity evolved into a celebration of his authentic self, flaws and all. Old friends who had drifted during the breakup slowly reconnected, their understanding deepening the sense of community he had craved. One particularly meaningful lunch with a college buddy who had also gone through a similar split reinforced that healing was not linear but possible with time and intention. Yet the journey was not without setbacks, a random encounter with Jake at a gallery opening testing Liam's resolve. The brief exchange ended civilly but stirred old wounds, reminding him how far he had come. Marcus was there, offering silent support, the moment solidifying their connection. As winter gave way to spring, Liam felt ready for more, the awakening complete enough to step into new possibilities without fear. The consequences of every choice along the way had shaped him into a stronger version of himself, one who valued his own voice above all. The path ahead stretched bright with potential, the emotional growth a testament to resilience in the face of betrayal and prejudice. Spring in Chicago brought blooming parks and longer days that mirrored the lightness Liam carried into his new chapter. He and Marcus had officially started dating, taking things slow with intentional conversations about boundaries and futures that felt refreshingly balanced. Their first weekend getaway to a cabin in Wisconsin solidified the connection, laughter echoing through the woods as they hiked and cooked simple meals together. Liam no longer questioned his worth in the relationship, instead embracing the joy of mutual support without the shadows of past mistakes. The growth he had fought for now shone through in every decision, from setting work-life boundaries to openly discussing his feelings with friends and family. A final loose end tied itself when Caden reached out one last time, not for reconciliation but to return a box of Liam's belongings and wish him well. The exchange at a neutral park bench was brief and mature, both men acknowledging the journey they had shared and the separate paths they now walked. Liam left the meeting without regret, the closure complete, the 5 years no longer a source of pain but a chapter that taught him invaluable lessons about love and self-respect. Back home, he unpacked the box, finding old letters and photos that he carefully stored rather than discarded symbols of a past that no longer defined him. Family visits became easier, his parents even meeting Marcus during a trip to Chicago, the dinner filled with tentative but genuine warmth. The societal pressures that once loomed large now felt manageable, Liam advocating for himself in ways he never had before, whether correcting assumptions at work or educating relatives about LGBTQ experiences. His support group friendships blossomed into lifelong bonds, the men there becoming brothers in arms against the isolation many still faced. The multi-layered relationships, love, friendship, family, and community wove together into a tapestry of strength Liam had once thought impossible. As summer approached, Liam stood on the rooftop of his new apartment, a place he had chosen alone, reflecting the independence he had earned. The city skyline glittered below, a testament to the life he had rebuilt from the ashes of betrayal. Marcus joined him, handing him a glass of wine, their hands brushing in a simple gesture that spoke volumes. The romantic happiness Liam once believed lost forever now bloomed quietly and authentically, the internal conflicts resolved through action and reflection. He had faced the worst, confronted the doubts, and emerged not broken but transformed, ready to love without losing himself. The journey had been marked by every emotion: shock, anger, grief, understanding, and finally peace. Each pivotal choice, the decision to leave, the courage to seek help, the willingness to forgive without forgetting, had shaped a man who understood his worth in a world that often challenged it. Liam raised his glass to the horizon, silently thanking the pain for the growth it forced. The story of his life was far from over, but for the first time he held the pen with confidence. True or false? Betrayal always destroys the possibility of future happiness in love. Word count: 1002.